If you've ever used a desktop computer or an older laptop, you've probably noticed it making subtle sounds while it's running. A faint whirring noise, a soft clicking sound, or a brief buzz when files are being opened. But if you switch to a newer system with solid-state storage, those sounds disappear almost entirely. The computer feels quieter, calmer, almost inert. This contrast raises a simple but interesting question. Why do hard drives make noise but SSDs don't? The answer isn't about quality or age alone. It comes down to how these storage devices are built, how they store data, and what must physically happen every time your computer reads or writes information. Today we're diving into that mystery, right here, on History of Simple Things. A traditional hard disk drive, or HDD, stores data on one or more rigid metal disks called platters. These platters are coated with a magnetic material and spin at extremely high speeds, typically 5,400 or 7,200 revolutions per minute, though some enterprise drives spin even faster. To read or write data, a small mechanical arm moves across the surface of the spinning platters. At the end of that arm is a read-write head that hovers just nanometers above the surface, changing magnetic patterns to store information or detecting those patterns to retrieve it. Every sound you hear from a hard drive comes from these moving parts. The spinning platters create a constant whir, while the arm's rapid movements can produce clicking or tapping noises as it seeks different locations on the disk. Sound is the result of vibrations traveling through air, and mechanical hard drives generate vibrations by design. The motor that spins the platters creates rotational energy, which inevitably produces vibration even when perfectly balanced. The actuator arm that moves the read-write head accelerates and stops thousands of times per second, creating tiny but audible impacts within the drive's enclosure. These vibrations transfer to the drive casing and sometimes even to the computer chassis itself. Under heavy activity, such as loading large files or running multiple programs, the arm must move frequently, increasing the intensity and frequency of these sounds. Even when a hard drive is idle, the platters usually continue spinning, which is why you can often hear a constant background noise as long as the system is powered on. Not all hard drive noises mean the same thing. A smooth, steady hum typically comes from the spindle motor that rotates the platters. Clicking sounds usually occur when the actuator arm rapidly moves between different tracks on the disk, a process known as seeking. During startup or shutdown, you may hear a brief series of clicks as the arm parks itself in a safe position. In some cases, louder or irregular clicking can indicate a failing drive, where the head struggles to find data or repeatedly resets its position. While modern hard drives are engineered to minimize noise, they cannot eliminate it entirely because the fundamental process of reading and writing data requires physical motion. As long as something is spinning and moving inside the drive, sound is unavoidable. Solid-state drives, or SSDs, work in a completely different way. Instead of spinning platters and moving arms, SSDs store data in flash memory chips made of silicon. These chips use electrical charges trapped in tiny cells to represent data as ones and zeros. When your computer accesses an SSD, it sends electrical signals to these memory cells, which respond almost instantly. There are no motors, no arms, and no physical movement involved in the process. Because nothing inside an SSD vibrates or shifts position, there is nothing to produce sound. This is why SSDs are completely silent during operation, regardless of how much data is being accessed or how demanding the task is. The absence of moving parts in SSDs doesn't just make them silent, it also affects performance and durability. Because SSDs can access any piece of data electronically, they are significantly faster than hard drives, which must physically move the read-write head to the correct location. This difference is especially noticeable when booting an operating system or opening applications. In terms of reliability, SSDs are less vulnerable to physical shock because there are no delicate mechanical components that can be misaligned or damaged. Hard drives, by contrast, are more sensitive to drops and vibrations, especially while operating. However, hard drives remain widely used because they are cheaper per unit of storage and can offer very large capacities at lower cost. Despite their noise and mechanical complexity, hard drives still play an important role in modern computing. Their manufacturing process is mature and cost-effective, making them ideal for storing large amounts of data such as backups, archives, and media libraries. In environments like data centers, the sound of hard drives is expected and managed through soundproofing and cooling systems. For everyday consumers, hard drives are often used as secondary storage, while SSDs handle operating systems and frequently accessed files. This hybrid approach balances speed, silence, and affordability. The noise produced by hard drives is not a flaw, but a trade-off, reflecting a technology that relies on physical motion to achieve reliable data storage. To recap, the reason hard drives make noise while SSDs remain silent comes down to one fundamental difference: movement. Hard drives depend on spinning platters and moving arms to store and retrieve data, and those mechanical actions naturally create sound. SSDs, on the other hand, rely entirely on electronic signals moving through solid-state memory, which produces no vibration and no noise. This distinction explains not only the sounds you hear from your computer, but also differences in speed, durability, and usage. As technology continues to evolve, SSDs are becoming more common, but hard drives persist because of their affordability and capacity. Understanding how each type of storage works makes the noise or silence make perfect sense. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.